All right, I call to order the Murray City Planning Commission meeting for Thursday, August 1st, 2024. It is 6:31 p.m. Present this evening, we have Commissioners Lisa Malkiewicz, Michael Henry, Michael Richards, Jake Pearson, and Pete Hristo. I am Maren Patterson, I'm the chair, and Ned Hacker is excused this evening. From staff, we have Zachary Smallwood and Mark Richards, and Phil Markham is joining us as well. We welcome the public. Thank you for attending our meeting. We are always grateful to have you here and participating. Some etiquette items to review. We ask that you take a moment and silence your cell phones. And when the time comes, if you would like to make a comment on an agenda item, we ask you come to the podium and speak into the microphone. The meeting is being recorded for the minutes and for anyone viewing online. And we ask that you will present your name and address for the record. Once your item is over, you are welcome to leave. We just ask that you do so quietly as we continue our meeting on to the remaining agenda items. If you are viewing this meeting online on the live stream, the only way to make a public comment is to email planningcommission@murray.utah.gov. If you post a comment on the Facebook live feed or the YouTube feed, it will not be seen tonight. Okay, so we will move on to our business items. First, we have the approval of the June 20th, 2024 meeting minutes. Have all the commissioners had an opportunity to review these minutes?
Yes.
There were only minor changes in the pre-meeting, so I'll entertain a motion to approve.
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes of the Planning Commission meeting from June 20th, 2024.
Is there a second?
Second?
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Do any of the commissioners have a conflict of interest with any of the agenda items this evening?
No.
No.
Neither do I. Next is our approval of findings of facts. Have the commissioners had an opportunity to review the findings of facts and conclusions for NA Auto and Secured Auto?
Yes.
Is there a motion to approve those?
I'll be glad to do that again. I move that we, the commission approve the findings of fact and the conclusions for NA Auto, project number 24-074.
As well as the other, there's two.
Oh, you want both?
Yes, yes, please.
Okay, and the findings of fact and conclusions for Secured Auto, project number 24-067.
Okay. Is there a second on that motion?
I'll second.
Great. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay. Now moving on to agenda item number 4, design review and master site plan for Cottonwood Galleria. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, great. First, we will have a report from Zachary Smallwood.
Thank you, Chair. This is a request from Cottonwood Residential for master site plan and design review approval for the property of 4998 South Galleria Drive. It's located here on your map on the corner of Vine Street and Murray Boulevard. It's approximately 26.07 acres. This used to be the 49th Street Galleria / Utah Fun Dome. It closed in 2005 and became the American International School of Utah, which is AISU, until about 2020, and due to the pandemic, closed permanently. So, this is located in the Murray Central Mixed Use Zone, which it consists of 2 sub-districts, the East and West District. The West sub-district is anything west of I-15. Anything in the East sub-district, obviously, is east of I-15. The West sub-district has significantly less density allowances and greater parking requirements, as well as, actually, that's mostly what those major points are. Moving on to the site plan, this is the proposed site plan for the property. consists of a total of 639 units. The zoning allows them to go up to 1,040 units, and they have brought it down, so that would be about 40 units per acre. They have brought it down to about 25 units per acre. It's actually 24.5, I think, so I round that up to 25 units per acre. It consists of 382 garden style, which are kind of like your traditional, you would see this near Hunter's Woods. Those are garden style apartments. They're kind of walk up. That would be on these property, or on these buildings located here. Are all those garden walk-ups, consists of 382. 165 units in the podium. A podium means that there's 2 stories of concrete parking, and then wood framing apartment building above that, located here. So there's 165 units in here. And then there are 92 proposed townhome units. So you have 3 townhome units, or 3 townhome buildings consisting of 4 units fronting on Murray Boulevard. And then the remainder of those units are located along this side here. So they are required, because this is a mixed-use zone, to have a commercial component. How we calculate that is based on their property frontage on certain streets. We call those principal streets. In the code, that's laid out as Murray Boulevard and Vine Street for this specific property. So you're looking at this street here, and then this street here, and down this way. How we calculate that is at about, I think it's 70% of that property frontage for a depth of 40 feet to get a total square footage requirement, which ends up being 41,760 square feet. Now, the applicant in the code may reduce that commercial component based upon meeting certain criteria. One of those criteria, so to reduce it up to 45% of the required commercial, they have to meet one of 3 criteria. One of them is a reduction between 15 and 19 units per acre, or a 15% increase in open space, or there are some affordability restrictions. I believe it's 20% of the units at 80% area median income and 10% at 60% area median income for a term of 50 years. They chose the reduction of 15 units per acre, which to bring them down to that 25 max, which allows them a reduction to 18,792 square feet of commercial requirement, and they are providing 18,900. 13,000 of that will be located here in this building on the north side of the property, and then an additional 5,900 will be located here in the podium near Vine Street and Murray Boulevard. Parking requirements. So parking is based on bedroom count in this zoning district, and there are a mix of 1, 2, 3, and even 4 bedroom units in this development. I won't break them out for you because that's a long, complicated table. Really what the ultimate parking requirement was 1,330 parking spaces. They've provided 1,350. This results to about 2.1 spaces per unit, which is more than a single-family home would be required. Yeah. So moving on from there. So what the Planning Commission's authority here is this evening is outlined in 17-146.060, which is site plan / master site plan requirements are required. So the Planning Commission will review applications for conformance to the requirements of this chapter for site plan approval. So what you're looking at are making sure that the requirements of the zone are being met. Staff, that's what our job is to make sure that we verify all those requirements before this gets to you. So staff did find that the request meets or will meet with conditions that are outlined in the staff report, the requirements of the zoning district. Couple things I wanted to go over, just to go through some of the high-level items. So building setbacks are required to be between 15 and 25 feet from the back of curb. We measured every building and found that they do meet that requirement. Public improvements, there is a requirement for an 8-foot park strip and a 7-foot sidewalk. Now, I marked this in yellow because, and I've already discussed this with the applicant, and I think it was stated in the staff report, they were not showing those improvements along Vine Street and Murray Boulevard. They did show them along Galleria Drive, but they did say that they would be willing, or not willing, they are able to meet that requirement. It was just an oversight on their part when they were developing the site plans here. Yeah, so we are conditioning that on there. So creek protection, Little Cottonwood Creek, so there is a setback, a 50-foot setback from the top back bank of the creek, where no buildings or parking may be located. We also have a plan for a trail that will connect. Currently, it goes from the Jordan River up through one development, and then this will continue it almost to I-15. There's one property located right here that prohibits it from actually touching I-15 and then moving up. So they are going to, and they are aware that we're requiring a conservation easement be placed on that section of land, and then Murray City will actually maintain that trail as one of, pretty much as our own, but they still retain ownership. We just are maintaining it. Access, there are 7 points of access on this property. So it's hard to see because you think Galleria is just one access, but that is a public street. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 points of access. Going to north to 48th, 2 points going onto Murray Boulevard. You also have a few onto Galleria that will also access Murray Boulevard. For anything over 100 units, we require 2 access points. And what the city engineer usually requires is that they can get out in multiple areas if for some reason there is a emergency, like a fire or something. So you can go left on Murray Boulevard, further down, I believe this will, this will be a full access as well as this. This will be restricted to right in, right out. So you do have multiple ways of getting in and out of the project. Moving along, I've already kind of gone over parking. They are meeting that requirement. Density, again, I've reviewed that. Proximity to residential zoning, height is capped at 35 feet max when located within 100 feet of a residential zone. And we did measure that out, and these are set back enough that they do not hit that 100 foot. You can almost see that line right there. I believe that's the 100-foot line. Those are 3-story, so I don't believe they are going above. Oh my gosh, I'm going all sorts of crazy. I don't believe they're going above 35, but they could if they would like to. Building requirements, 1 entrance on street frontage for every building. As you can see here, everything is facing onto a public street if it's not within the project itself. Every street frontage has a mix of buildings with street frontages. No blink walls greater than 50%. This is to allow for additional light and air in the area. And then open space and amenities, 15% is required per the code. They're providing 34%, which is approximately 9 acres of the 26 total area. which is significant. We usually get people at like 15.3%. So I do commend them for providing quite a bit of open space on their project. They are required to provide 6 amenities, and they have provided 10. Again, that's listed out in your packet on exactly what those are. Moving along, so going along the Planning Commission authority, the next part is the site, a master site plan approval. This is required when a property is greater than 3 acres in size. So what that requires is that you have to make sure that the application is meeting, I believe, 5 criteria, which A, B, and C, which are our first 3, building orientation, central feature, and outdoor spaces. I'll get to those in just a moment. But the D is a development agreement. The required elements of that is allowed phasing of residential and commercial development components, residential densities, parking, buffering of adjacent single-family residential zones, et cetera. So here before you is their proposed phasing. So you have 1 here, which is largely their garden-style walk-up product, in addition to approximately 4 townhome buildings. Phase 2 would be a portion of the trail and the remainder of the townhome units. Phase 3 would be the commercial component, and Phase 4, which is the last, would be the podium building. In the staff report, staff did request at least a conversation on having the trail be included in Phase 1 because it is such an impactful space for the community. So that's a discussion we could have going forward. So going to the building orientation, central feature, and outdoor spaces, I wanted to touch on those quickly. Here you can see this is their landscape plan. Their central feature is really this trail going here. This connects the commercial component to the residential overall. And there's multiple ways of getting around on the property. Additionally, there are plenty of open spaces. There's large green space here. There's a large clubhouse with swimming pools, sport courts, things of that nature. It's really hard to see at this scale some of those more minute things because we're looking at something that's a very large property. Here you have a proposed dog park and also a play area as well. Building orientation, I kind of touched on earlier. All the buildings are formed to create these spaces, especially along the street. We're creating a street wall there. A lot of the buildings are facing out onto the street. Or in the case of these townhomes, they're facing right out onto this great public trail here, much like the property to the south of it as well. Let's see. Okay, so next, last part is I will go over is the 5th component, which is the site plan application requirements. So there are 4 here. There's the traffic impact study and parking analysis, the adequate public utilities and facilities review, and public services review. So I'm reviewing both of the 1 and 2 together and 3 and 4 together. 1 and 2 was conducted as a traffic and parking analysis they submitted by Fair and Pierce. They are a nationally known traffic engineering firm, very well respected in the planning and engineering community. As you can see here, in the 2028, so what I highlighted in red here is 2028 level of service, which means that what the delay is in intersections. If you remember the training we had a few months ago with the traffic engineer, that just means, so this number here, the B correlates to a certain number of delay. So you can see 11 seconds at Commerce and 4800 South at peak AM time. So that's usually from 8 to 9. that doesn't mean that it's gonna be 11 seconds all day, every day. So you can see at 2028, your level of service here is pretty consistent, A's, B's, C's. However, when you do consider the podium option, there are two areas, Murray Boulevard, the intersection of Murray Boulevard and Galleria Drive, which reduces to a D and E. And I apologize, in the initial, it actually is already operating, or at 2028, it's considered to be operating at a D. And so it would move down to an E, and on the westbound direction. So Fair and Piers did recommend that be changed to a right in, right out to restrict some of those delays. And the city engineer is also requiring as the condition that be turned into a right in, right out access. Okay, this also touched on a parking analysis, reviewed their parking requirements from Murray City, neighboring cities, as well as national standards. And they do feel that the parking is sufficient for the proposed development, even by national and nearby cities, including West Valley and Salt Lake City. Moving on to utility and facilities review. As the commission knows, we farm out every application to all departments within the city. So that is power, water, fire, wastewater, police, and they provide us comments back. And each department stated that they have been aware of the project for some time and are able to accommodate the potential impacts that this could bring. Additionally, in your packet, there are specific comments that were included that will help the applicant when moving forward, if this moves forward. Additionally, we don't often require this, but Murray School District was notified and provided a letter that they would be able to, that they do not see an issue with the increased number of students that the residential development would bring. So those are the big, large ticket items for review here. The next part is mostly Zach's unfinished slide here, so ignore that one. I'll go over some of the elevation and materials for this project. It's a mix of three and 4 stories with one 7-story building on the corner of Vine and Murray Boulevard, which that is even pushed back a little bit from Murray Boulevard. It's largely on Vine. I'll show you that in a moment. This is one of the two of the garden style walk-up. This is the 3-story building. As you can see, it's a mix of hardy board, stone veneer, wood veneer, and then also on this 4-story apartment building, you have some metal paneling in addition to that. These are the townhome units on top, 3-story, gabled roof on most of it. And then also this is a different 3-story unit that has more hardy board and stone veneer as opposed to the last one that had more wood tones. This is the proposed commercial building. It's a mix of brick and metal paneling with some stucco along the sides, but the front-facing area would be brick and metal. So this is the largest building, which is the podium building. So these bottom 2 floors are meant to be, if you're familiar with the property, that section along Vine and Murray Boulevard is very steep. And the podium is meant to be below grade of Vine Street. So you really won't see this except for on the backside, which I'll show in. So like on this picture here, you'll see the 5-story here and not see the 2 additional parking decks below that. One of the requirements of the zone is that we require a break in the building at 300 feet. And so, and I didn't show it here and I apologize, but right through here will be a publicly available access that comes down this stairway to connect into the larger development. That was a requirement of the code, is that they break that up and it be publicly available to go through. That will help reduce walking trips up to the Murray Central Station. So going back to this is the commercial located out on Murray Boulevard. As I said, the podium building actually goes further back because of that requirement of 35 feet when located 100 feet. So this is pushed back further than that. So section 1704.14 notices requires property owners be notified of rezoning or conditional use permit applications. So we don't, site plan reviews do not require a public notice. However, we have traditionally sent notice with regards to site plan applications, just for transparency and make sure that the public is aware of those. 94 public notices were sent to all property owners within 500 feet of the proposed project. And as of me writing this at 4 o'clock, there were 2 emails that I will read into the record during the public comment portion. Findings are listed here as well as in your packet. We do find that the proposed mixed-use development is consistent with the goals and objectives of the Murray City General Plan. Land use 1100 housing units are permitted use in the MCMU zone. Horizontal mixed-use developments are allowed subject to master site plan approval by the Planning Commission. And with the conditions, the proposed development complies with the requirements of the Murray Central Mixed-Use Zone. So with that, we are recommending that the Planning Commission approve the requested master site plan and design review for the Cottonwood Galleria mixed-use project, subject to these 11 conditions. Questions? Give my jaw a moment. Just kidding.
Zach, can you, I'm sure this was a lot of information that was presented for the audience, but these packets and all this information is posted online. Can you just remind the audience, if they want to go in and look at more detail, all of the plans that we've been given are
Yes.
there for them to review?
Yes, they are. If you go to murray.utah.gov and then navigate to the Community and Economic Development page, they are posted on the Planning Commission section that states agendas and attachments, and the packet is located there. We have another way of doing it, but it broke, and I don't have it
But
posted. in
if
that
they
other way.
wanted to go back and look more closely at a lot
Of
of
course.
the plans or paths or all the
Yep.
things that have been submitted,
Correct.
they could take more time to
Yes.
review those things.
Yep, exactly. And it's also located on the state's public notice website. I post the packet there as well.
Okay, great. Any questions for staff?
Could you go back to your zone requirements page that you had early on? The one that had that, yeah. The park strip, is there a park strip requirement, or what's required on the Vine Street side of the podium building?
The same, 8 foot and 7
It
foot.
is required,
Yep.
it is the same.
Yep.
And so that public access area will just open up, walk out right onto that sidewalk?
Correct.
Okay. Is there any concern with sanitation or anything like that with that playground area right next to the dog park area? Or did I not understand
I
that right?
think the dog park is over by the, I could be wrong.
I thought
So
they
there is an amenity play
Like,
space
aren't they
over
right
here,
together?
but I don't see why there would be.
Is there a fence in between them?
Oh, yeah, the dog park is gonna be fenced.
Completely fenced?
Yeah.
All right, that's not a big deal. Another question though, on that traffic study, and you, maybe go to that chart that you had that showed the E-level concern or whatever. Were any of these other conditions reevaluated once the engineer decided to go with that right in, right out on Galleria?
Well, that's what they, excuse me, that's how they decided to, how they mitigate it,
Well, I
through.
know that's how they mitigated this one. My concern is that they just pushed the problem to a different location.
That, I mean, that, I don't know. Fair and Piers would have to do, speak to that. All I can say is that
Well, and
that
I
our
guess
city
that
engineer,
From our standpoint, the reason I bring it up is they're required to do a traffic study.
that's correct, and it was
And I'm
reviewed
trying
by
to
our city
understand if
engineer.
they finished
Let me finish. If the city engineer has reviewed it, if he had concerns, he would have requested either one be done by the city, or he would have asked them to reevaluate.
All right.
Any additional questions for staff? Okay, we will have the applicant come forward. And if you could just state your name and address for the record.
Hi, I'm Tyler Morris with Cottonwood Residential, the applicant. Business address is 1245 Brickyard Street, Suite 250.
Great, thank you. And have you had an opportunity to review the 11 conditions?
I have, yes.
And you'll be able to comply with those?
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Is there any additional information that you'd like to give the commission about this project?
Not particularly. I think Zachary did a good job kind of incorporating the discussions we've had so far. And we've been working on this for about 3 years now, through a number of iterations, and have gotten kind of 3 or 4 rounds of feedback from the city that's been very helpful in terms of areas of focus and where we need to tighten plans up. So I know these take a lot of resources from the city as well as from ourselves. So we appreciate kind of the amount of time that's gone into it and the amount of guidance we've been given.
Great. Does the commission have any questions for the applicant?
What are your thoughts on including the Little Cottonwood Creek Trail as part of Phase 1?
I think we're open to it. You know, Phase 1 and Phase 2, I think, will be pretty close together. It's possible that Phase 2 even gets in front of Phase 1, Phase 2 being kind of the townhomes along the creek there. In the current kind of economic environment, the townhomes make a lot more sense than the garden-style apartments do. So that's anything that's starting in the near term tends to be townhomes. Our expectation is that those townhomes will be for sale, which is also kind of what makes sense in the current environment. So I think, you know, from us, the thing that matters the most is to do it kind of in the cadence of other construction going on. So as long as there's construction in Phase 1 or Phase 2, I think you can kind of roll in your landscaping and civil guys to have them attend to that as well.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you so much.
All right, thank you.
Okay, at this time, we would like to open this agenda item up for public comment. If you would like to make a comment for this agenda item, you may come to the podium and speak into the microphone. Please state your name and address for the record before your comment and try to keep your thoughts to 3 minutes. We ask that you offer new information in your comments. Please do not rehash things that have already been stated. After the public comment portion of this meeting, we will address any questions or concerns, either with the applicant or with staff. So is there anyone that would like to make a comment for this item? Yeah, please come up.
Good evening. My name is Sergio Cardenas, and I live at 5076 South Murray Boulevard, which would be like right across the street from those 3 buildings. 10 years ago, when I bought my house, my wife and I, we used to walk our dogs down the Jordan Trail, even at night. I would like to ask if any of you would do that today. It's pretty bad. I had my truck destroyed in front of my house. I had the police there because I had a homeless guy pretty much sleeping in my steps down to the street, among a lot of other things. The main thing is, how are we going to protect from all this crime wave that is going to hit us when 2,000 more people come and live there. You got 2 chicken coops on Galleria and 48, which is gonna be what, 700 people maybe? Maybe 1,000, maybe more. 639 times 2, you're looking at 2,500 people more. Maybe 2,000 cars. The other day, I was coming home from work, and between Commerce, at 5 o'clock, 5:05, between Commerce and Murray Boulevard, it took me 3 lights, 3 green lights, to make my left on Murray Boulevard to get into my house. When the school was there, I can tell you, they used to park in my driveway, waiting for the kids to come out of school. How many accidents that I missed? Hundreds of them. Kids just running across the street. And now with commercial development, families living there, I think it's gonna have a big impact. I mean, I have options, I could sell my house for 4 times the amount that I bought it 10 years ago. I have places to go, but it's the kids, your families. They're gonna be someday cutting the traffic there. Who knows? Thank you much.
Thank you. Anyone else that would like to speak to this agenda item? Okay.
Hi, my name is Diane Lopez, and my address is 5022 Murray Boulevard. I live right on Murray Boulevard where this big project is going to be taking place. I've lived out here in Murray for the last 22 years, and I think it's really deplorable that something like this can even be planned here. I recently read online that Murray was the 3rd worst city in Utah to live in, and that was because of crime. I don't want to see crime in my area. I mean, I've seen it already. Murray has changed dramatically from what it was when I first moved here. I mean, at night, it's scary. I won't even go throw my trash at night. That's how scary it is living here. And when we put a 600-unit apartment building right across the street, it's going to get 1,000 times worse, where Murray may become the 1st worst city in Utah to live in. I think we all got to think about that. I mean, we have one high school. Where are all these kids going to go to school at? Horizon's already overcrowded. The 2 junior highs that we have, I mean, are packed. Where are these kids going to go to school? Is what I'd like to know. I think that this is really, really horrible for what used to be a quaint little city to live in and a safe city to live in. I mean, you can't even, I mean, it takes you 20 minutes sometimes just to go from Smith on 54th to my home. I mean, that's ridiculous because the traffic on Murray Boulevard is atrocious. So I think this is something we all should be thinking about. Sometimes I really thought it was going to be a waste of time to be here tonight because it always seems like the developers win instead of the citizens who really put up with the city. I don't want to see Murray fall into the 1st worst city in Utah. So I just think this is something we all need to think about. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any additional comments?
Hi, my name is Michael Todd. I don't think any of the planning commissioners know me, but you will know my business. I own Desert Star Playhouse in Murray, and we've been here for 36 years now. There's a lot more about me that you don't know. Before I retired and my wife and I started Desert Star, I was the financial advisor to the Intermountain Power Agency, which, as you probably know, Murray City owns the majority interest in. And my partner, the late Jim Matsumori, was Murray City's financial advisor. So I've got a long history and connection to Murray City. I don't live in Murray City, but I bet I spend more hours here a week than most of you do, unless you work in Murray City, because I'm here every day, pretty much 7 days a week. I sleep in another city, but I live in Murray. The reason that I'm here is kind of bizarre. If you look at this map, do you see this on your screens? So I don't know how to highlight the property that I own, but if you look at the green line, there we go, yeah. It's all of that property there. And Desert Star actually owns that property. And we have been completely zoned out of what we intended to use it for. So I've got a piece of property that we bought years ago to help Desert, for the growth of Desert Star, which, I remind you, we started as a public service 36 years ago, and it's grown into quite a bit more than a public service. But I intended to use it to expand Desert Star, not to another location, but for auxiliary services. And none of those are in the zone now. So I'm stuck with a piece of property that I'm afraid is going to end up being an eyesore. And I'm not opposed fundamentally to any of this, but in my opinion, having been an advisor to cities and to public utilities and the like, to my way of thinking, I don't mean to tell you how to do your jobs, because I don't, but to my way of thinking, it's your job to look out for Murray City. And I'm afraid that Murray City is going to end up with what will eventually become a 50-year vacant piece of land, because there's not much you can do with it besides incorporate it into this project, which I have wanted to do, I have tried to do, but I haven't been successful at doing it. As many of you probably know, on 4800 South, where the podium projects are going up now, there are some people, I'm assuming, who held out, and there's going to be some problems along that street with land. I don't want this to be another one of them, because this picture is very deceptive. This picture makes my property look like a small percentage of this overall development, which it is. But if you drive down I-15, we own almost all the frontage. We own what you see. Once you get past our property, you really don't see it anymore. It disappears from view. So we own what the world is going to see. And I don't want that to be a vacant piece of property forever that is covered in weeds or who knows whatever else. So I'm simply asking you to, as a planning body, encourage us, and I'm not opposed to what they're proposing, but to include it somehow in this overall planning process so that Murray doesn't have a problem. That I don't have a problem, but that Murray doesn't have a problem eventually. I want you to know that I have met with Zach and Phil and the mayor about this. Respectfully, I disagree with what I've been told I can use the property for. I don't think, I politely listened, but then I've researched it myself, and the retail uses that the city has indicated that I would be able to use that for, the retail brokers just laughed at. They said there's no way those will work there. So I don't know whether they will or not. I'm not in the retail business when it comes to retail types of real estate. As part of Desert Star, we do lease to H&R Block and to a few other retail type tenants, but I'm certainly no expert in real estate. I was an expert in public power. So I've taken more than my share of the time. I simply would like the opportunity to work with these gentlemen to try to master plan it so that when people are driving down I-15, they see all of a great project, not 90% of a great project and one big eyesore. So thank you very much for your time. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Any other comments?
Madam Chair, I don't think an address was given for the record. Does that matter?
It's all right.
Desert Star, State Street. Very good.
I apologize. I'll say it again. Michael Todd, 4861 South State Street, Murray.
Thank you so much. Okay, Zach, do you want to read in your?
Yeah, I can read the two emailed comments. First one is from, and I apologize, I'm gonna butcher this name, Annie Egelhoff, I believe. Hello, my name is Kristen Egelhoff, and I live in the neighborhood where Project 24-083 is proposed. I am submitting comments to you today because I am deeply concerned about the impact this will have on the people who live here. Building 639 residential units with almost 20,000 square feet of commercial space seems quite frankly untenable. The infrastructure in this neighborhood will likely not accommodate the influx of thousands of people. The traffic and noise during and after construction will be at best disruptive and at worst destructive. It is also likely to increase the crime rate, increase utility costs, increase property taxes, and increase traffic in an area that cannot sustain it, resulting in congestion and increased emissions and pollution. All of that in turn will greatly increase the impact that we already have on the Jordan River Parkway and the wildlife that call it home. In the 15 years I have lived in Murray and the surrounding areas, rent has doubled and salaries have not. Most of us are barely hanging on. Building units like this will result in this area experiencing yet another ridiculous and unjustified market rate increase, forcing many people out of their homes and potentially into homelessness. Utah politicians have repeatedly demonstrated that they will not choose what is in the best interest of their citizens or the environment in which they live, instead choosing their individual best interests and often their wallets. I am begging you to be different and do what is best for us. Build single-family homes, build a park, but please don't build this. Thank you, Kristen Egelhoff, 4947 South Murray Boulevard. Okay, the next one, sorry, let me just, okay, is from James W. Anderson and Emma D. Tanner with Clyde Snow, Attorneys at Law, Clyde Snow and Associates. Regarding objection to Cottonwood Residential Mixed-Use Development Design and Master Site Plan Review Approval, Public Hearing Agenda Item Number 4, Project Number 24-083. Dear Mr. Smallwood, this firm has been retained by Hunters Woods SPE LLC, and then in parentheses, Hunters Woods, regarding Murray City's consideration of Project Number 24-083, the fourth agenda item of today's public hearing. Hunters Woods presently owns and operates a 324-unit apartment complex that spans either side of Murray Boulevard, immediately west of the proposed 639-unit mixed-use development on South Galleria Drive. And they put in the development. Given the size of the development as well as the limited amount of time Hunters Woods has had to review and evaluate the 137-page Murray City Planning Division staff report that was published late Friday, July 26, 2024, we have been instructed to notify you of our client's concerns prior to today's hearing so that such may be incorporated into the public record and hopefully meaningfully considered by the city. Of utmost concern is the heightened density in the area, given that Hunters Woods inquired about adding a mere 8 units to its property just last year and was was told approval was seriously doubtful due to the city's density concerns. Our client is justifiably concerned that adding over 600 units in the same area will negatively affect the community's health, safety, and welfare. Indeed, the city's approval of the development, given their 2023 suggested denial of Hunter's Woods minor expansion, appears to be unequal application of the laws or other unlawful discrimination against Hunter's Woods. Hunter's Woods estimates that the development will add approximately 2,518 residents to the area. With the influx of new residents, Cottonwood Residential expects to accommodate its tenants with 1,350 new parking stalls. But with multiple occupants and guests per unit, Hunter's Woods expects parking to overflow onto neighborhood roads, driveways, and even private vacant lots and fields. If you recall, such was recently an issue on Main Street at approximately 4500 South with the Fireclay and Burke Hill Apartments. Vehicles were parked bumper to bumper on the main roads and expanded wherever people could find space, regardless of legality. After reviewing the staff report, Hunter's Woods notes that Murray City fails to acknowledge that Utah Transit Authority, UTA, has long recognized the problems that come with high-density living in Utah, particularly with respect to increased vehicular traffic. As a result, UTA has been making efforts to add bus stops along Murray Boulevard to alleviate what is already a frustrating amount of traffic and congestion. Now with thousands of added vehicles, Murray Boulevard and neighboring streets are likely to be completely overwhelmed. This is particularly true given that Murray Boulevard is currently made up of only 2 lanes, a detail Murray City appears to have overlooked in suggesting that Murray Boulevard is actually a 4-lane thoroughfare in its staff report. Given that Murray City has not presented an intention or plan to expand Murray Boulevard, and Hunter's Woods sees no feasible way to do so, traffic concerns only continue to mount. With the increased traffic and density come additional safety concerns. For example, Horizon Elementary School is located just minutes from Hunter's Woods apartments and the development, with so many children walking to and from school, as well as the added vehicular strains during pickup and drop-off times. Local residents are rightfully concerned about children's safety. This is especially the case for those Hunter's Woods residents who recall the stress and frustration surrounding increased foot and vehicular traffic from the international school that used to be located nearby. Even with thousands fewer people, traffic was a problem for local residents and bore safety risks to drivers and pedestrians alike. The development will only magnify these risks. Of lesser concern to the community at large is the fact that there is a private water line that runs through Hunter's Woods, property that Hunter's Woods expects will need to be utilized to provide utilities to the development. Depending on what this means for Hunter's Woods, it may not be prepared or able to grant outside access of that line. Of course, Cottonwood Residential and any other owners would require Hunter's Woods approval before tapping into that private line. Naturally, Hunter's Woods desires to obtain independent traffic and other studies so that it can adequately consider the ramifications of the development should it proceed. Therefore, it is worth highlighting that Murray City did not publish any substantive information about what may very well be one of the largest developments in state history until late Friday, July 26th. This left residents with essentially 5 calendar days to process and analyze a near 140-page staff report. As a result, Murray City has essentially stripped Hunter's Woods and other locals of their ability to meaningfully consider the development and what it means for their community, as well as the ability to be heard on any issues they may have. This letter represents only those concerns Hunter's Woods has identified over the last 5 or so days and may not be a comprehensive list of every concern or problem that should be addressed prior to the city's approval of the development. Should the city permit the development to proceed, Hunter's Woods intends to continue with its own research and analysis and is prepared to invoke the law and any available resources if and where necessary to ensure the development is approved and finalized in an appropriate manner. Very yours truly, James W. Anderson, Emma D. Tanner.
Did we receive any email comments during the meeting?
Let's just double check. I have not received any.
Okay. If there are no additional comments? Okay.
Hi, my name is Carmen Cardenas. I live at 5076 South Murray Boulevard. I will be
right by Galleria Drive. I am all for growth. Utah is busting out of its seams, right? Because everybody wants to be here in Utah. It's a beautiful state. I chose to live in Murray because I love Murray. It's a small community. I love being here. I walked into my home, and that was a place I wanted to be. I'm sorry, I'm emotional. This is very emotional for me. I want to retire here in Utah. I want to feel safe in my neighborhood. I want to be able to walk out in the evening hours with our dogs, just taking a walk with my husband hand in hand. We can't do that. And now with this large development of 639 or whatever the units are, that's 639 rental units. What happened to home ownership? That could have been 600 homes, family homes to live in. Murray's a beautiful small community. It's growing. But this is not growth in a positive way. We don't want to see bricks and sticks built up in a large building like this, like if we're in New York. It's going to feel like a cemented neighborhood. And I'm really heartbroken. I did not ever expect this to be here in this small community of Murray. Like I said, I moved here because I was very choosy about where I wanted to be, to retire with my husband, to have our grandkids come and visit, to have our sons and daughters to come to visit. And with this across the street from us, it's going to be very difficult. Again, I know growth is very important. Everybody loves Utah. It's a beautiful state. But it has to be beautiful for everyone. We live here in a small community, in a very nice community that can be kept nice. And instead of having homeownership for young families that want to come and live here in Utah or live in Murray, we're not offering that. We're offering them rent. They can get that in California. They can get that downtown. They can get that anywhere if they want to just rent. But home ownership, they're not going to have that. And it's going to be beautiful for a few years. Yes, everything new is beautiful. We buy a car, after a few years, we change it for another one, because that's old. We want something new. But these are people's lives. These are neighborhoods. And we're families. And we want to have safety in our neighborhoods. And we want to have safety where we live. And since we've been in Utah, and specifically in Murray, again, I love the city of Murray. I had a lot of places to choose to live, and I chose Murray. But with this new development, this is not something that's going to be positive for our small community. And like I believe Mrs. Lopez indicated, we do have Murray High School. But they're busting out of their seams as well. The growth is just exponential. And although, again, I love growth, but it has to be in a positive way. Instead of 600 rents, it could have been 600 homes for young families to live, to grow, to raise their children, to walk, and that wasn't happening. Thank you.
Any additional comments? Okay, I'll close the public comment portion of this meeting for this agenda item and bring it back to the commission. Well, actually, let's answer some of these questions. Zach, address some of the comments.
Yeah, So, with regard to crime and homelessness in the area, typically what you see when checking these types of things is open vacant land that isn't being actively used usually leads to increased activity of crime and homelessness. It's been proven time and again that homeless people usually just want to be left alone. So they usually go to places that are abandoned or left vacant. So my rebuttal to kind of that is that the development of this area will provide additional people, eyes on the street type looks, people that will be active and engaged in the community. These will be people and families and residents of Murray, just like the people here. And we'll also want to call this place home as well. So that's addressing those. A couple things I want to address regarding the letter from the attorney. I don't recall anywhere where I've stated, and I double checked this after we received this, that I've stated that there was a 4-lane road on Murray Boulevard. I didn't find that anywhere. So I don't know where that's come from. Additionally, I don't, and I can't speak to this, but I don't believe any utility would allow them to tie into a public utility. There are very large utility lines that run through Galleria already, which I believe they're proposing to tie into. So I don't think they're going to have to tie into anybody's private water lines. And I don't think Murray Water or Sewer or anybody would allow that anyway.
Was that not part of the review from the public utilities?
Yeah, it would have been, but this came today. So, yeah, again, I didn't look over the plans at this time, but I can almost guarantee you that would not be allowed anywhere in the city. And then also, specifically about the school, we do have a coordination meeting. The director, Phil Markham here, meets with the school superintendent and the school board, along with the city council and the mayor. And currently, about 20% of the students are from outside the city's boundaries and are actually imported from other communities as, I don't remember what it's called, like vouchers.
Out of district, yeah.
Yeah, out of
Yeah,
district.
they're here on
Yeah,
permit.
out of district, and that's a statement from the school superintendent. And again, as I showed on my slides, this letter is signed by the superintendent of Murray School District, that they are able to accommodate the anticipated students. There was something on here, oh, UTA. UTA is actually very supportive of housing, and that is correct that they are adding bus stops. This is part of the Mid-Valley Connector bus rapid transit line going down Vine Street to Murray Boulevard to 4800 South. So there will be installation of new bus rapid transit stations. And you can see here, they've actually called out, you can't really see it, but it says bus stop located here as part of that station, where those are pretty significant headways. I think they're about every 15 minutes. Along 45th, they will actually have their own dedicated lane connecting to West Valley. And yeah, so Yeah.
I kind of hate to ask this, given your attitude about my other traffic questions, but UTA buses create congestion on streets, especially two-lane streets like this.
sure.
When they stop, it pretty much stops everything behind them.
Yeah, and these
Is
actually.
that included in this traffic study?
This will actually be, this BRT will actually pull off. There's a very wide shoulder. It will pull off. And it's supposed to, it almost acts like tracks on wheels is pretty much what it does.
Yeah, you should look up Bus Rapid Transit. It's a really cool program.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like a typical bus. It's a fast bus.
one of the comments kind of alluded to the fact you've already got people parking with the Hunter's Woods along that street.
But is that a parking issue with Hunter Woods or a parking issue with our new project?
Well, you're gonna add more cars into the area, I guess is all I'm saying.
Yes, and they do meet the requirements of the underlying zoning.
Zach, can you talk about that a little bit more? I know you mentioned it earlier. But one of the comments said that developers win. And can you address like what the code, and how they are meeting all of their requirements?
Sure,
And-
I'll actually give a little bit of history here
Yeah,
as
thank
well.
you.
I brought up this zoning map for specific reasons. This area was rezoned in 2010, so about 14 years ago, to a mixed-use zone. At that time, it was allowed up to 80 units per acre, which would have been about 2,000 homes on this site. And we were getting a lot of, an influx of applications for mixed-use developments across the city, and we're noticing that it was going to have an impact on city services and quality of life standards. And in 2021, the city put in a moratorium on all mixed-use development in the city. And we went through an exhaustive review with the city departments, looking at infrastructure capabilities and allowable uses, and found what the city could support. And that's when this zone was amended and allowed only 40 units per acre, which would have still been about 1,000 units on this site. And as I mentioned, they are only doing a little over half of that, 639. And I apologize, I don't think I'm addressing what you're asking.
Well,
Sorry, so yeah, I remember now. I was off on train of thought. And these zone changes were brought before this body in 2021. And they were reviewed by the city council at that time as well. Back in 2010, when this code was initially adopted, this would have been noticed, just like everything here, and the planning commission at the time would have been held a public hearing, just like we are now. And then whenever we've changed the code, which I know we've changed it multiple times since I've been here, outside of that 2021 change, those same neighbors would have, and property owners would have been noticed of every zone change. And so the zoning is what somebody is allowed to do with their property. It's a private property rights issue, which is underlying, which is a fundamental constitutional right in this country, are the ownership of property and the ability to do what you'd like on your property. Zoning was implemented to safeguard that to a degree under the police power. I believe it's the 14th Amendment. And so there are restrictions placed on things, and that's what this zoning does. So what you are doing as a body is reviewing and making sure that a project is meeting what is currently allowed in the code. This is not asking for anything outside the code. If anything, they have made concessions by reducing their commercial, by reducing their density, by allowing for, to allow them to do less commercial on the property. And an increase in open space. So I think that gets to your question. At least I hope it does.
Yeah, and I mean, I just want to call out, I was on the commission when that moratorium and review of the mixed-use zones came out. And it was exhaustive to the point that, I don't know if you'll notice, but this is the MCMU West Zone, which has different requirements than the East Zone because of the restrictions of access or things like that to this property. They've changed it. They were very comprehensive in these mixed-use zones and what those ordinances looked like for different places in the city. And it really is not a blanket zone where everything is allowed and developers can do whatever they want. It was very specific. And I just want to kind of call out also, mixed-use zones maybe seem the same. Someone did mention Fire Clay, which is a transit-oriented zone. And so that zone is completely the ordinances for parking, traffic, all those things are completely different based on where that mixed-use zone is located versus where this mixed-use zone is located. This does not have, that transit-oriented zoning is located right next to a track station. And so they did not have the same parking requirements. Even the way that they were implemented, everything was different then. Since then, some of the things that we have learned have now been applied to the ordinances of rezoning or rewriting the mixed-use NCMU West zone. Is that fair to say?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's important to point out too that in I believe 2021, we did a transportation plan. Was it 2021?
Yeah, master plan.
And this property, although the development, we didn't know exactly what was going on here. We knew something was going on here. In fact, I think more units were on that transportation plan, were there not? I can't remember.
I think it was between 12 and 1,600.
Yeah, so almost, so
Yeah.
double. And so the city reviewed all that in their transportation plan, and that's why some of that, why there was conversation around public transportation and reducing the amount of, the density of these properties. I feel for everybody that came up here. I've lived in Murray my entire life. If it were up to me, we would build back the 49th Street Galleria and make it like it was in 1992, where it was a family, oriented establishment. But unfortunately, it's not up to me. And our job here is to determine if they're following all the rules of the zone. And we can't, unfortunately, tell them, go build single-family homes.
I appreciate you tying that in, because I appreciate you giving the history of the zones and how the zones were developed and how there are different zones. And then also tying in that our hands are tied. Our job is to make sure the zones are followed. Beyond that, city council, so you should talk to. And be involved in the zoning processes, but.
History education question, what was this zone or what was in the general plan before 2011 when this was made into a mixed-use zoning district?
I don't know on this one specifically. I know a little bit further
Well,
north. It was,
I can't remember when the Galleria went in there, but you've always had apartments and that kind of commercial or
sure.
higher density kind of planned in that area, it seems like, for at least 3 decades.
Yeah, but I couldn't actually cite what exactly it would be.
Can the city address Mr. Todd's discussion about his little plot of land, the Desert Star property?
Well, maybe, I don't even know if it's appropriate, but the developer maybe address that also.
Well, this ultimately is Mr. Todd's property. If he wants to sell it or leave it vacant to deteriorate, that's up to him. And if he wants to sell it to somebody else, he's more than welcome to. I'm sure there's somebody that would buy it.
But that's
But-
not really the purview.
But, and that's not,
That's
yeah,
like
that
two
is
private
not, yeah,
citizens, right,
that's
of how
between
they-
two
yeah.
citizens, correct. And this body cannot force this applicant to speak to another property owner about their property. I'm not suggesting that, I'm just saying we can't force, or you as a body cannot force somebody to,
And it's not
entering.
part of the plan that we're reviewing
Being
tonight,
presented this
so it's
evening.
hard to have a conversation about that.
correct, yeah.
Any other comments that you'd like staff to address from the comment portion? Okay, then I will bring this IDA back for review discussion or a motion?
Commissioners, were we going to discuss our opinion and well, if we would like to have the trail amenity added to the first phase, or?
I mean, I brought that up, so so I'll say, I mean, I think it would be nice. I think I have some concerns with it not being in the first phase, but I think I'm fine with how this is written. But I'm fine adding it too.
I think it's a good idea. No one's opposed, so why not ask for it? The builder's okay with it. We would prefer it. I think it makes sense.
I guess I don't know that it does make sense from a building standpoint, the way they have phased this out. It seems like we might be adding cost, but if the developer doesn't disagree, I would go for it. But I don't think we should add it unless the developer is willing to do it.
Well, he said that it's maybe flexible about which one is phase one, actually. Might be the townhouses anyway, so. I think that it would be a great addition to the community at large and the surrounding area, and especially as it's kind of called out in our packet, it's the central feature of kind of what this whole, this whole project is connecting to. The other paths on the Jordan Parkway, and connectivity also helps bring about safety, because more people using the path also helps more eyes and people on the pathways, and those all help reduce crime. So I think that if safety and crime are one of our concerns, maybe adding the pathway in phase one would be a good idea.
I could make a motion that way if we're ready for a motion. Or if we want to continue to discuss it, that's fine.
Is there any further discussion about this agenda item?
Okay, I'll make a motion that the planning commission approve the requested master site plan and design review for the Cottonwood Gallery, a mixed-use project on the property located at 4998 South Galleria Drive, subject to the 11 conditions with an additional condition that they include the central feature of the Little Cottonwood Creek Trail as part of phase one.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Pearson to approve the requested master site plan and design review for Cottonwood Galleria mixed-use project on the property located at 4998 South Galleria Drive, subject to the 11 conditions as written with the addition of a 12th condition. Is there a second?
I can second.
Okay, second by Commissioner Markovich. Is there any discussion on this motion?
No.
Okay, we'll take a roll call vote.
Okay, Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes,
Commissioner Henry,
Yes, with a note that I have lost total confidence in Murray City traffic study, or traffic engineering.
okay,
department.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Hursto,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. Okay, so the motion is approved, and good luck on your project. Thank you for those that came out for this agenda item. We will move on to agenda item number 5, Diamond Ridge Development. Is the applicant here this evening? Okay, great. We'll first have a staff report from Zach.
Great. This is a request from Diamond Ridge Development to rezone the property at 4734 South Hanover Street from R16 Medium Density Single Family to RM15 Medium Density Multifamily. It's located just down the street. So the street behind us is Hanover Street. If you just take that a little bit further north, so City Hall is literally just down here. So it's on the corner of Regal and Hanover Streets. Like I mentioned, it's in the R16 zone. It's approximately 0.27 acres in size. General plan describes it as medium-density residential, which the R16 and the RM15 are in both zoning, or in both of these future land use districts. Couple, just review the zoning differences here. So residential density in the R16 is 6,000 square feet per single-family lot. In the RM15, if they were to do a single family, they'd be required to have 8,000 square feet or allowed up to 12 dwelling units per acre. Based on this property, they would be allowed to do a maximum of 3 units. Height is limited to 30 feet in the R16. The Planning Commission may approve up to 40 feet in the RM15. A single-family home is about 35 feet in like the R18 zones and things like that as well. Front yard setbacks, they're actually going to be increasing by this request. So in the R16 existing is 20 feet, in the RM15 it's 25. Rear yard is the same, 25 in both. The side yards in the R16 are 5 feet. In the RM15, it's a minimum of 8 for a total of 20. So typically you get either 8 and 12 or 10 and 10, whatever equals about 20 feet. Corner yard setback again is the same, about 20 feet. And they would be increasing their parking requirements from 2 spaces per dwelling to 2.5 spaces per unit. Staff sent out 70 notices of the public hearing for the requested amendment to properties within 300 feet. And we did not receive any inquiries or comments regarding this application. Findings here, we do, the general plan provides that flexibility in those zoning districts in the medium density residential. Proposed zone map amendment from R16 to RM15 has been considered based on the characteristics of the site and the surrounding area. And the proposed zone map amendment conforms to the important goals and objectives of the general plan. So with that, we are recommending that the Planning Commission forward a recommendation of approval to the City Council for the requested zoning and map amendment for 4734 South Hanover Street. Any questions?
So Zach, with the size of this lot, what could they build on this lot with it being RM15 compared to R16?
R16, they could only do a single-family home. They might be able to get a second single-family home. There are some like frontage requirements and things that might not be wide enough to do that. But in this proposal, they could do like a triplex. Or I think their intention, from what I understand, is to put 3 townhomes, like in a single townhome building, and then sell those off individually.
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other properties in the area currently zoned RM15?
There are not any that are currently zoned RM15. However, these 2 properties, this property here is currently a 4-plex. It's a non-conforming property. So it was legal when it was built, and then the city came in and changed the zone. I think that runs at about 20-something units per acre based on that, if you calculate that out, 4 units based on that size. It says it in the staff report.
So that property, if they were gonna put that in there now, it would require this same change.
It would require a higher change.
Oh,
It would
even more?
require, yeah, it would require over 25 units per acre, so like an RM25 instead of the
Oh, wow, really?
RM15 that this is requesting.
So I drove the neighborhood for about almost 30 minutes, and my kids went to daycare there, and we had, actually, the purpose of my question is the 2 properties, is this north? The 2 properties south of that property?
This one? Oh,
That's-
south here.
Yeah, south, are they for sale? If they all change to RM15, something bigger could be built.
Possibly, but really, we're only looking at this application. I don't know if staff would, one of the reasons why staff is supporting this application is largely because of its proximity to these 2 things, and then also its frontage along Regal Street. Because from what I understand, they want a front on Regal Street.
But we're not basing off a project or zoning change, right?
No, but, so the neighborhood in the area does support, that type of density, if not higher.
Say that again, please.
The neighborhood does, the projects right near these also support that kind of higher density, even though they're zoned lower density, these were built in the past at a much higher density.
They're required, on this is a corner lot, so it requires that 20-foot setback all the way around then.
Depending
well,
on where
on the
they
two.
front it, yeah, depending on
front
where they front it. So if they front the project on Regal and designate that as their front yard, it would be 25 from here and 20 on both these sides. If they front it
Okay.
on Hanauer, then the corner would be on Regal.
All right, thank you.
Yeah.
Any additional questions? Okay, we can have the applicant come forward.
My name is Mark Hardy. My business address is 635 West, 5300 South, Murray, Utah, Suite 100. I did want to request, if possible, to increase the number of units to 4. It's very close to fitting within that requirement. But I think, as far as I know, that's the only, and we were planning on fronting on Regal Street. But as far as I know, that's the only comment I have.
Okay. So when we do a zone map amendment, we don't consider a project. So is there anything you would like to speak to about changing the zoning? Why it would be
So why to change the zone?
from R16 to RM15?
So it would increase the property value. It does match the areas around it. It wouldn't affect the area in any way. If anything, it would add to the area.
Okay. Any additional information you want to give the commission about this zone map?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
And I guess, so the amendment, or I don't know what they're called, but the exceptions,
Conditions?
what is it called?
Conditions, maybe?
Yeah, the conditions.
Well, he's talking about exceptions.
So. would
Well,
there-
conditions will be addressed at the next step of the process. So
Okay.
we're not considering a project right now. We're just looking at the zoning of this property.
Okay.
Great. Thank you so much.
Well, I assume this applicant is the one that requested the zoning change, right?
Right, but we consider zoning based on the
I
merit.
understand.
Yeah.
But it's kind of one of these things that the witness opened the door.
It is and it isn't, because this property has some considerations that would be different, and maybe receive different zoning than, say, the property to the south, because of how it's oriented and where it's located. So we can consider the zone map of a property independently of a project.
I think that's important too, because if we get information about the project and we make this decision based on a project, us changing the zone doesn't require that person to build that project, and this is
Okay,
changing
let
the
me-
zone for potentially ever.
Try to ask the question a different way then. Did the applicant make the right request on what zone he wants this to be?
Yeah, I understand. I get what you're asking. So what the zone would allow, from what I could see, is 3 units. That's all it would allow. There would not be an opportunity for them to request a 4th unit. If they wanted to change their amendment, or their zone map amendment, let me rephrase that, their zone change, they would have to present that at a later date. Tonight, that you guys are reviewing the RM15 as was requested, I can have a discussion with the applicant afterwards if they want to change that amendment to something different to allow for a 4th unit. But at this time, from what I could see based off the acreage and everything, it was 3 units.
And the next zone after RM15 would be RM25? That's
No, RM20,
Oh, RM20.
yeah,
Okay.
which would be 17 units per acre.
So
And
I-
they would have to, at that point, consider if they have the amount of acreage to, right, like that would be considered totally separate.
Yeah, and that would be
Yeah.
we would either, depending on what the decision of, or the recommendation of the planning commission, I'd have to sit with legal and figure out whether we can amend the current application and bring it back to you with a new zone, or if we would need to finish this one and then come back with a new application. But I can deal with that after. But currently, what we're reviewing, what you as a body is reviewing, is this application for the R16 to RM15.
Does that answer your question or
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I just don't, well, yes.
So I would like to ask if we have a small other discussion. I know there will be pushback, but I feel like it's important for the public to see this thought process. So on page 5, in the middle of the page, we said the applicant proposed zone amendment, which is supported by the current land use designation, will allow for future development that provides for a transition between established residential neighborhoods and the commercial area located on State Street. I read that and I think about it because I drove this area for like 30 minutes, and it's all single-family homes. And I understand there's a big duplex there, and there's this big apartment complex in the middle. But it's an established neighborhood, and when we make one change, then it's a domino effect, because we see, there's already one there, there's already one there. So I want to be cognizant of that. And so that statement saying it's a transition between residential neighborhood and commercial and state, I feel we should talk about a little bit more, because really, these houses on the east side would be a transition. I'm not sure if that house in the middle is a transition from the commercial on State Street.
I mean, I guess that would be your opinion. I don't necessarily agree. I see this, Regal Street is kind of a higher trafficked area. This would allow for a buffering to the single family below it, as well as, to the south and east. Pretty much this Regal Street and State Street, is higher utilized. But if you don't agree, that's perfectly fine.
Say what you said one more time.
One of the arguments we made in our report, the city's report, was that this would work as a buffer from the commercial on State Street. And I was just saying I could see that argument supporting maybe the houses on the east, but I'm not sure how it supported this piece of property. But
So multifamily, you're saying multifamily doesn't act as a buffer?
well, the statement, it's okay, he's made his point. It just said that it acts as a buffer for the residential from State Street. And I figured 4735 would act as a buffer for 4734, more so than the reverse. But
I mean, I don't know if I understand what Lisa's trying to say, but I think if I think I know what she's saying, I agree. I think by the time you're at this intersection, you feel like you're in the neighborhood. You're not buffering the neighborhood at that point. You've entered the neighborhood by the time you hit this intersection.
Is that?
Mhm.
Any additional discussion?
I mean, I think the thing that makes it compelling to me that it probably would fit is that the property at 4715 already has higher density housing. So I'm not sure it would not fit in this area if we rezoned it.
Okay, and unless there's any additional questions for Zach, then I'll open the public comment portion for this agenda item. Seeing none in the audience, did we receive any? Emails?
Oh, I apologize. Sorry.
Sorry, Zach.
Out of it. No emails.
Okay,
Can
is
I-
there anyone that would like to make a comment, public comment?
Madam Chair, can I ask one more question?
is it about public comment?
No,
Oh, okay. Then I'll close the public comment portion and bring it back for discussion or a motion.
now, sorry, now can I ask another question?
Great.
What is the future land? This is the future land. map,
Yeah,
use
it
of
was
the area.
medium density,
Okay,
correct?
Yep,
it says medium?
Which, yeah,
that?
it's
Yeah,
the,
medium
it's
density
the
residential.
middle yellow. It's hard to tell.
right there.
Which would be R1A,
No.
RM15.
And
R16, RM15.
That's what I meant.
And I can tell you.
Right, that's multiple zones.
Yeah,
in
there,
that.
there's multiple. Yeah,
Yeah, in
R16 and RM15 are both located in that.
I think it was in the pack, and I think the largest one was this request, right? RM15, right?
Yeah, R16, RM10, and RM15.
Any additional discussion, or I'll entertain a motion?
I guess I want to say, I don't really have a problem with this idea of this and the project. Where my concern lies then is there is the potential then for the person that bought this property to buy the next 3, 4, 5 down and change them all to RM115 and run with it. But I guess that shouldn't be a concern because that's what the zone is.
That's not part of,
Say again?
no, I was thinking that's, I understand your concern, but we're just going to approve the change, right?
Yeah, well, that's what we take in consideration. We improve a change because we're also assuming that it will occur all around it because that's the zone.
I wouldn't say that. You're not supposed to consider whether it'll happen all around it. I wouldn't say you're supposed to consider that.
It's a
Because
potential.
I mean, that's always a potential. Anybody could come and apply for any zone. But I wouldn't say that should be one of your considerations. You can, but I wouldn't say that's a large concern.
I mean, I'll do the motion.
What do I do if no one makes a motion, Zach?
I will make a motion that the planning commission forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment to the zoning map designation of the property located at 4734 South Hanover Street from R16 Single Family Medium Density to RM15 Multiple Family Medium Density Residential as described in the staff report.
Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Pearson to forward a recommendation of approval to the city council for the requested amendment of the zoning map designation of the property located at 4734 South Hanover Street from R16 Single Family Medium Density to RM15 Multifamily Medium Density Residential, as described in the staff report. Is there a second on that motion?
Second?
Okay, and a second from Commissioner Richards. Is there discussion on that motion?
I just would point out that I wouldn't have made this motion if the density was higher than that number.
I agree.
Good discussion. Okay.
All right, Commissioner Pearson,
Yes.
Commissioner Richards,
Yes.
Commissioner Henry,
Yes.
Commissioner Milkovich,
Yes.
Commissioner Haristo,
Yes.
and Chair Patterson.
Yes. So it will go on to the city council and, yeah, hopefully you'll be able to move forward. So thank you for being here tonight. Appreciate you coming. Is there any additional business for the commission?
I don't think so. We'll have one on the 15th, 3 text amendments, all staff initiated. So I'm bringing the ADU back with, after the discussion from last week. And then fences and signs, so yay. And for those of you that didn't know, Mustafa is no longer with Murray City, but we are hiring a planner 1/planner 2. We've already had like 15 applicants, so pretty exciting. Yeah.
What about the other, David Rogers?
Yeah, David,
Is
yeah,
he
he's,
still with us?
yes, he is still with us. He's just on a pre-planned a vacation before he started, and, yeah, so
Yeah.
I really, he's really great. He's
Agreed.
probably watching because he's a nerd like me. So-
On vacation.
Yep,
Can you not take vacations after you start?
no,
If they were pre-planned.
no, we're not allowed.
You would've said
No
no.
more vacations.
All right.
I don't know when the right time or the right person or place to tell you is, but I will not be in town for the next two planned
Oh, that's right.
commission meetings.
Yeah, I think I had that written down from last week, but thank you
Kind
for
of
the reminder.
Unfortunate, it's overlaps, but
Yeah. Okay, so the 15th and the first one in September?
mhm.
Okay.
Is there a motion to adjourn?
I'll motion to adjourn.
At
Second.
8:11. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.